The accidental bond. The warning alarm screamed through the corridors of the colony ship New Horizon like the death cries of wounded beasts. Captain Alex Chen ran down the main hallway, his boots echoing against the metal floors as crew members rushed past him in organized chaos. The ship shuddered violently as another energy blast struck their hull. "Report," Alex shouted as he burst onto the bridge. The massive view screen showed 3 enormous vessels surrounding their ship, each one twice the size of the New Horizon. They were unlike anything in human databases, sleek and predatory, with hulls that seemed to shift color like oil on water. "Unknown vessels appeared 15 minutes ago, Captain," called out Lieutenant Sarah Park from her position at the sensor station. "They're demanding we surrender immediately. Our weapons are no match for their firepower." Alex studied the alien ships on the screen. After 3 years of deep space exploration, this was humanity's first contact with an advanced civilization. Unfortunately, it wasn't going well. The New Horizon carried 800 colonists heading for a distant world, families and children seeking a new life among the stars. Now they faced capture or destruction. "They're hailing us again, sir," announced Communications Officer David Walsh. "Put them through." Alex straightened his uniform and faced the view screen. The image that appeared made several bridge crew members gasp. The alien was humanoid, but clearly not human. She stood nearly 7 feet tall with pale blue skin and silver hair braided with what looked like metal threads. Her armor was a work of art, carved from some dark material and inlaid with glowing symbols. Most striking were her eyes, violet in color and filled with the confidence of someone who had never known defeat. "I am Kira Valdris, First Blade of the Valorian Empire," the alien announced in perfect English, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Your vessel has entered territory claimed by our empire. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed." Alex stepped forward, meeting her gaze directly. "I am Captain Alex Chen of the Earth colony ship New Horizon. We are peaceful explorers carrying families to establish a new settlement. We mean no harm to your empire." Kira's expression didn't change. "Your intentions are irrelevant. You have violated our space. However, our laws allow for one alternative to immediate destruction." She paused, studying Alex with those piercing violet eyes. "Single combat. Your champion against ours. If you win, your ship may continue unmolested. If you lose, all aboard become property of the Empire." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. Alex felt the eyes of his crew upon him, knowing they were thinking the same thing he was. This was their only chance. "I accept," Alex said firmly. "I will be our champion." For the first time, Kira showed emotion. Surprise. "You? A ship commander who fights his own battles. Most species send their strongest warrior." Alex smiled grimly. "Most species haven't met humans. I'll fight myself." 1 hour later, Alex found himself aboard the largest Valorian ship, standing in what could only be described as an arena. The room was circular with a raised platform in the center, surrounded by seats filled with Valorian warriors. They were all tall and elegant like Kira, but their eyes held the coldness of predators. "The combat will be to first blood or surrender," announced an elderly Valorian male whose silver hair fell past his shoulders. His armor was more elaborate than the others, marking him as someone of high rank. "I am Admiral Thane Valdris, Fleet Commander and father of our champion. The weapons are traditional Valorian blades." Alex was handed a sword unlike anything he had ever held. The blade was perfectly balanced, seeming to vibrate with barely contained energy. Across from him, Kira tested her own weapon with fluid movements that spoke of decades of training. "Human," she called out, "know that I take no pleasure in this. You show courage by facing me yourself, but courage alone will not save your people." "Maybe not," Alex replied, settling into a defensive stance he had learned in military academy years ago. "But it's all I have to offer." The combat began with Kira moving like liquid lightning. Her blade swept toward Alex's neck in an arc that would have decapitated him if he hadn't thrown himself backward. She followed immediately with a thrust aimed at his heart, forcing him to parry desperately. Alex had trained in swordplay as part of his military education, but Kira was clearly a master. She moved with the grace of a dancer and the precision of a surgeon, her blade always exactly where it needed to be. Within minutes, Alex was bleeding from half a dozen small cuts, while Kira remained unmarked. The Valorian audience watched in silence, their violet eyes reflecting no emotion as their champion systematically dismantled the human. Alex's breathing became labored as he tried to keep up with attacks that came from impossible angles. But Alex had one advantage that Kira didn't expect. He was an engineer before he became a captain. His mind was trained to see patterns, to understand how things worked, even in the midst of chaos. As the fight continued, he began to notice something about Kira's movements. She was incredibly skilled, but her techniques followed classical forms. Every attack was textbook perfect, which made them predictable if you could think fast enough. When Kira launched into a complex combination that Alex had seen her use twice before, he didn't try to parry. Instead, he dove to the side and rolled, coming up behind her as she completed the sequence. For just a moment, she was off balance, surprised by his unconventional response. Alex swept his blade in a wide arc, not trying to injure her, but simply to force her back. The energy blade sliced through the air, where her head had been a split second before. But as Kira spun away from the attack, the very tip of Alex's sword caught something. A long braid of silver hair that had been woven with metal threads and small glowing gems. The braid parted cleanly, falling to the arena floor with a sound like wind chimes. The effect on the watching Valorians was immediate and shocking. Gasps echoed through the arena, and several warriors rose to their feet. Admiral Thane's face went completely white. Kira stopped moving, her sword hanging forgotten in her hand. She stared at Alex with an expression of pure horror, then slowly turned to look at her severed braid lying on the arena floor. When she faced him again, her violet eyes were wide with something that might have been fear. "What have you done?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Alex looked around the arena in confusion. I don't understand. It was an accident. I was just trying to defend myself." Admiral Thane stepped onto the arena floor, his face grave. "Human, do you know what you have accomplished?" "I cut her hair by accident," Alex said, still not understanding why everyone looked like he had just committed murder. "I'm sorry, but—" "You have severed the honor braid of a Valorian warrior," Thane interrupted, his voice heavy with significance. "Among our people, this act carries the weight of ancient law. It can only happen in combat, and only when the warrior has been defeated completely, not just in skill, but in honor itself." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. "What does that mean?" Kira answered, her voice steady despite the shock in her eyes. "It means I am no longer Kira Velders, first blade of the Valorian Empire. I am nameless, honorless, and bound by blood and tradition to serve the one who claimed my braid." She slowly sank to one knee, bowing her head. "I am yours until death, human. My life, my skills, my very existence belongs to you now." The arena fell completely silent. Alex stared at the kneeling warrior, his mind racing to understand what had just happened. "That's insane. I don't want to own anyone. Can't we just call it an accident and move on?" Admiral Thane shook his head sadly. "The law is absolute. It has governed our people for 3,000 years. No Valorian has ever been released from such a bond, and no Valorian would ask to be. Honor is everything to us, and without honor, she is nothing." "Then I release her," Alex said firmly. "I free her from any obligation to me." "It cannot be done," Thane replied. "The bond is not something you can simply dismiss. It is written in our blood, in our very DNA. She is compelled to serve you now, whether you wish it or not." Alex looked down at Kira, who remained kneeling with her head bowed. The elegant warrior who had been so confident and powerful just minutes before now seemed small and broken. The unfairness of it hit him like a physical blow. "This is wrong," he said, his voice filled with anger. "No one should be enslaved because of an accident." "It is not slavery," Kira said quietly, finally looking up at him. Her violet eyes were bright with unused tears, but her voice remained steady. "It is the price of my failure. I was defeated in combat by a superior opponent. The law recognizes your victory and grants you the right to my service." "I didn't win," Alex protested. "You're obviously the better fighter. I just got lucky." "Luck is part of combat," Admiral Thane said, "as is strategy, skill, and adaptation. You found a way to defeat our greatest warrior when defeat seemed impossible. That is victory by any measure." Alex ran his hands through his hair, trying to process what was happening. "What happens now?" "Now she comes with you," Thane answered. "She will serve as your personal guard, your advisor, your weapon if needed. Where you go, she goes. What you command, she obeys. Until one of you dies, you are bound together." The implications hit Alex like a freight train. "What about my crew? My mission? We're supposed to establish a colony." "Your mission continues," Thane said. "But Kira goes with you." And he paused, looking around the arena at his warriors. "Perhaps this is an opportunity for both our peoples. My daughter was our greatest warrior, our most skilled diplomat. If she is bound to serve you, then perhaps she can serve as a bridge between our civilizations." Kira rose to her feet, her movements still graceful despite her obvious distress. "I understand my duty, Admiral. I will serve faithfully and bring no further dishonor to our people." Thane approached his daughter and gently touched her cheek. "You have brought no dishonor, Kira. You fought with courage and skill. This human simply proved more resourceful than anyone anticipated." He turned to Alex. "Captain Chen, I place my daughter's life in your hands. Treat her well, for she is precious to me, even if she no longer carries our name." Alex looked at Kira, seeing the proud set of her shoulders despite her defeat, the way she held her head high even in submission. This was a person of incredible strength and dignity, now bound to him by laws he didn't understand and traditions he found abhorrent. "I'll do my best to be worthy of her service," he said finally, though the words felt strange in his mouth. As they prepared to return to the New Horizon, Admiral Thane provided Kira with personal belongings and weapons. The other Valorian warriors watched in silence as their former champion gathered her possessions. Several looked sad, but none questioned the decision. "Captain," Kira said as they walked toward the shuttle bay, "I know this situation is strange for you. Your people do not understand our ways. But I want you to know that I harbor no resentment. You fought with honor and ingenuity. If I must serve someone, I am glad it is you." Alex stopped walking and turned to face her. "Kira, I want you to understand something. Where I come from, we believe that all people should be free to choose their own path. I may not be able to break this bond you talk about, but I promise you this: I will never treat you as property. You're a person, not a possession." For the first time since her defeat, Kira smiled slightly. Perhaps this bond will teach us both something about honor and freedom. As they boarded the shuttle back to the New Horizon, Alex wondered what he had gotten himself into. He had saved his crew and his mission, but at what cost? He now had responsibility for the life and well-being of a warrior from an alien culture, bound to him by laws he found morally repugnant. Behind them, Admiral Thane watched the shuttle depart, his expression unreadable. His greatest warrior was now serving a human captain, but perhaps that wasn't entirely a bad thing. The humans had proven themselves clever and resourceful. Maybe this strange turn of events would lead to something neither species had expected: understanding between two very different peoples. The shuttle docked with the New Horizon, and Alex led Kira aboard his ship. The crew stared in amazement at the tall, elegant alien walking beside their captain. Word of the combat had already spread through the ship, but seeing Kira in person was different from hearing the story. "Attention, crew," Alex announced over the ship's communication system. "We have resolved our situation with the Valorian Empire. We are free to continue our mission. However, we will be joined by Kira Valdris, a Valorian warrior who will be serving as our liaison with her people. I expect everyone to treat her with the respect due to any crew member." As they walked toward the captain's quarters, Kira observed everything with keen intelligence. "Your ship is smaller than our vessels, but it seems well designed. How many people do you carry?" 800, Alex replied. "Families, scientists, engineers, teachers, all volunteers seeking a new life on a distant world." Kira nodded thoughtfully. "And you lead them all? That is a great responsibility." "Yes, it is," Alex agreed. "Just like you now being bound to me is a great responsibility for both of us." They reached Alex's quarters, and he gestured for Kira to enter. The space was modest but comfortable, with a desk, a bed, and a small sitting area. Kira examined everything with the eye of a professional warrior, noting exits, potential weapons, and defensive positions. "Where will I sleep?" she asked. Alex hadn't thought about that. "There's a guest cabin next door. You can use that." Kira shook her head. "I am your personal guard now. I must remain close enough to protect you at all times. I will sleep here, on the floor." "Absolutely not," Alex said firmly. "You're not sleeping on the floor. We'll figure out something better." For a moment, Kira looked confused by his concern for her comfort. Then she smiled that slight smile again. "You truly are different from what I expected, Captain Alex Chen." As the day wore on, and the New Horizon resumed its journey to the colony world, Alex began to realize that his life had changed in ways he was only beginning to understand. He had gained not just a guardian, but a window into an alien civilization. And somehow, despite the strange circumstances that brought them together, he found himself looking forward to learning more about both Kira and her people. The accidental severing of a hair braid had created a bond that neither human nor Valorian fully understood. But perhaps, Alex thought as he watched Kira efficiently organize her few possessions, that was exactly what both species needed: a chance to learn something new about honor, freedom, and what it truly meant to serve others. Honor and understanding. 3 weeks after the encounter with the Valorian Empire, life aboard the New Horizon had settled into an unusual routine. Kira Valdris, the former First Blade of the Valorian Empire, now served as Captain Alex Chen's personal guardian, though both were still learning what that meant in practical terms. Alex discovered that Kira took her duties seriously, perhaps too seriously. She accompanied him everywhere, from routine bridge inspections to engineering meetings. When he tried to convince her to take time for herself, she politely but firmly refused. "My purpose is to serve and protect you," she explained as they walked through the ship's main corridor. "To do otherwise would be to fail in my duty." "But you're a person, not a piece of equipment," Alex argued, a conversation they'd had many times. "You need rest, recreation, time to pursue your own interests." Kira paused in their walk, considering his words. "Among my people, duty and personal fulfillment are the same thing. To serve with honor is the highest achievement one can reach." Their conversation was interrupted by Lieutenant Sarah Park running toward them, her face flushed with exertion and alarm. "Captain, you need to get to the bridge immediately. We're detecting massive energy signatures approaching from multiple vectors." Alex and Kira rushed to the bridge, where the main view screen showed something that made Alex's blood run cold. Dozens of objects were moving toward them through space, each one roughly spherical and covered in what looked like organic material. They pulsed with a sickly green light and moved with purpose despite having no visible propulsion systems. "What are we looking at?" Alex demanded. "Unknown contacts, sir," reported Lieutenant Park. "They appeared on our sensors 20 minutes ago and have been accelerating toward us ever since. They're not responding to any communication attempts." Kira stepped closer to the view screen, her violet eyes narrowing as she studied the approaching objects. Her face went pale, and Alex noticed her hand instinctively move to her weapon. "Captain," she said, her voice tight with controlled fear, "these are Devourer swarm units. They're one of the most dangerous threats in known space." "Devourers?" Alex asked. "I've never heard of them. They're not truly alive, but they're not machines either," Kira explained quickly. "They consume organic matter to fuel themselves and reproduce. A single unit can strip a planet bare of all life within days. A swarm this size." She paused, calculating. A swarm this size could consume every living thing on a dozen worlds. Communications Officer Walsh looked up from his station. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Valorian fleet. Admiral Thane is requesting immediate conference." "Put him through." Admiral Thane's image appeared on the secondary screen, and Alex could see the worry etched on the alien commander's face. "Captain Chen, my sensors showed Devourer units approaching your position. You must evacuate immediately." "What about your ships?" Alex asked. "We will attempt to delay them, but our chances are minimal. The Devourers adapt to any weapon used against them. They learn from each attack and become immune to it." Alex studied the tactical display showing both the human ship and the 3 Valorian vessels. The Devourer swarm was still several hours away, but their course was unmistakable. They were heading directly for both fleets. "Admiral," Alex said, making a decision that surprised everyone on the bridge, including himself, "what if we work together? Combine our tactics and weapons?" Thane looked startled. "Captain, no Valorian fleet has ever coordinated with another species. Our military protocols are classified, our tactics secret, and my ship carries 800 civilians who will die if we run separately." Alex replied firmly. "Kira has been teaching me about Valorian combat philosophy. You believe in honor through action, right? What's more honorable, maintaining secrecy or saving lives?" Kira stepped forward, moving to where her father could see her clearly. "Admiral, Captain Chen speaks wisely. Perhaps it is time for new ways of thinking about honor." For a long moment, Thane was silent. Then he nodded slowly. "Very well. But you should know, Captain, that what I am about to share could be considered an act of treason by our High Council." "Then we better make sure it works," Alex said grimly. Over the next 2 hours, the bridge of the New Horizon became a combined command center. Valorian officers appeared on secondary screens, while human crew members worked frantically to integrate alien tactical data with their own systems. The language barriers were significant, but Kira served as translator, her knowledge of both cultures proving invaluable. "The Devourers attack in waves," explained Commander Zeth, Admiral Thane's second-in-command. "They send scouts first to analyze our defenses, then adapt their main force accordingly." Lieutenant Park was studying the combined sensor data. "Captain, if we coordinate our shield frequencies, we might be able to create overlapping defensive fields. Neither of our technologies alone could stop them, but together." "It's worth trying," Alex agreed. "Kira, can you explain our shield technology to your father's science officer?" For the next hour, Kira worked tirelessly to bridge the gap between human and Valorian technology. Alex watched her with growing admiration as she translated complex technical concepts between 2 completely different scientific approaches. She wasn't just serving as his guardian. She was actively saving both fleets. The first Devourer scouts arrived exactly when the combined tactical analysis predicted they would. 3 organic spheres, each about the size of a shuttle, approached the human and Valorian ships with cautious, predatory movements. "All ships, hold fire," Alex commanded over the open channel. "Let them scan us. We want them to think they understand our capabilities." The scouts circled both fleets for 20 minutes, emitting strange energy pulses that washed over the ship's hulls. Then, as suddenly as they had arrived, they departed toward the main swarm. "Phase 1 complete," announced Admiral Thane. "Now we must prepare for the real attack." The main Devourer force arrived 4 hours later, and it was even more terrifying than the sensor readings had suggested. Hundreds of organic spheres moved in perfect coordination, their surfaces pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that seemed to communicate information throughout the swarm. "They're beautiful," whispered Communications Officer Walsh, staring at the display. "Beautiful and deadly," Kira corrected. "Each unit contains enough destructive power to crack a moon in half." The attack began with a precision that spoke of hive intelligence. The Devourers split into multiple groups, each one targeting a different ship with weapons perfectly calibrated to overcome that vessel's defenses, or at least that's what they thought they were doing. "Now," Alex commanded. The combined human-Valorian defense activated all at once. Shield frequencies that had been carefully concealed suddenly shifted to new configurations. Weapons that had been hidden powered up and fired in coordinated volleys. Most importantly, each ship protected not just itself but its allies, creating a defensive network the Devourers had never encountered before. The results were spectacular. Devourer units that had expected to punch through human shields instead met reinforced Valorian energy barriers. Attacks calibrated to overcome Valorian defenses were deflected by human adaptive shielding. The swarm's coordination faltered as their predictions proved completely wrong. "They're adapting," Kira warned, watching the tactical display. "Look, they're changing their attack patterns." She was right. The Devourers were regrouping, their bioluminescent communications becoming more frantic as they tried to analyze the unexpected defense network. But their adaptation was taking time, and time was something the Allied fleet could exploit. "All ships, advance," Alex ordered. "We attack while they're confused." What followed was unlike any space battle in recorded history. Human and Valorian ships moved together in formations that neither species had ever attempted before. Alex's tactical training and Kira's combat expertise combined to create strategies that surprised even their own crews. The New Horizon, designed as a colony ship, wasn't built for combat. But Alex had spent years as a military engineer before becoming a captain, and he understood how to improvise. "Engineering. Can we modify our deflector array to emit a disruption field?" "Give us 10 minutes, Captain," came the reply from Chief Engineer Rodriguez. "We don't have 10 minutes," Alex muttered, watching Devourer units closing in on their position. Kira moved to the engineering station and began working alongside the human technicians. Her understanding of energy systems was different from human science, but complementary to it. Within 5 minutes, they had created a hybrid device that used both technologies. "Field ready, Captain," Rodriguez announced with amazement. "I'm not sure how it works, but it's working." The improvised weapon proved devastatingly effective against the Devourers. The disruption field interfered with their organic control systems, causing entire groups of the creatures to lose coordination and drift helplessly in space. Admiral Thane's voice came over the communication channel, filled with something that might have been wonder. "Captain Chen, your people are remarkable. You create new solutions even in the middle of battle." "We learn from the best," Alex replied, glancing at Kira with respect. "Your daughter has taught us much about thinking tactically." The battle lasted 8 hours and ended with the complete destruction of the Devourer swarm. Not a single human or Valorian life was lost, though several ships sustained significant damage. More importantly, both species had learned something valuable about cooperation. In the aftermath, as damage reports were compiled and repairs began, Alex found himself alone with Kira in his quarters. The elegant warrior was sitting quietly, cleaning her weapons with the methodical precision of someone who had done this countless times. "You saved us all today," Alex said, settling into the chair across from her. "Your knowledge, your ability to bridge our two technologies. Without you, both fleets would have been destroyed." Kira looked up from her weapon maintenance. "I did what was necessary to protect you. That is my purpose." "No," Alex said firmly. "You did what was right to protect everyone. There's a difference." For a moment, Kira was silent, considering his words. Then she asked, "Captain, may I ask you something?" "Of course." When the battle was at its worst, when the Devourers had adapted to our defenses and were closing in, you positioned the New Horizon between them and my father's damaged flagship. You risked your own ship, your own people, to protect Valorians. Why? Alex thought about the question, trying to find the right words. Because they were people who needed help. Because your father had shared his knowledge with us, trusted us with his secrets. Because, he paused, looking directly into her violet eyes. Because I've learned from you that honor isn't about following rules blindly. It's about doing what's right, even when it's difficult. Kira set down her weapon and stared at him with an expression he had never seen before, something between surprise and recognition. Among my people, we have a saying. True honor reveals itself only in the crucible of impossible choices. You faced such a choice today. So did you, Alex pointed out. You could have focused only on protecting me, as your bond requires. Instead, you helped save both fleets. Kira began, then stopped. For the first time since he had known her, she seemed uncertain. I interpreted my duty to protect you as including the protection of your mission and your people. If the battle had been lost, you would have been lost as well. Alex smiled. That's a very creative interpretation of an ancient law. Perhaps, Kira admitted with a slight smile of her own. Or perhaps I am learning that there are different ways to understand honor and service. A soft chime indicated an incoming communication. Admiral Thane's image appeared on the room's display screen, and Alex noticed that the Valorian commander's expression was more thoughtful than usual. Captain Chen, I wanted to thank you personally for today's victory. Your willingness to cooperate, to trust us with your lives, has given me much to consider. Thank you, Admiral. Your people fought with courage and honor. Thane nodded, then turned his attention to his daughter. Kira, I have been thinking about your situation. The bond that ties you to Captain Chen was created through combat, through the ancient laws that govern our warriors. But today, I witnessed something unprecedented. A human and Valorian working together as equals, each contributing their strengths to achieve something neither could accomplish alone. Kira straightened, her posture becoming more formal. Yes, Admiral. Perhaps, Thane continued slowly, the bond you share with Captain Chen need not be interpreted only as servitude. Perhaps it could be seen as partnership. Two warriors bound together not by domination, but by mutual respect and shared purpose. Alex felt his heart skip a beat. Admiral, are you saying? I am saying that laws written 3,000 years ago may need new understanding for new times, Thane replied. The High Council will not be pleased, but after today's battle, they cannot argue with the results of human-Valorian cooperation. Kira looked between her father and Alex, her violet eyes bright with something that might have been hope. You would support such an interpretation. I would, Thane said firmly. What I witnessed today was not a servant blindly following orders, but two equals working together to achieve the impossible. That is the highest form of honor I know. After the communication ended, Alex and Kira sat in comfortable silence for several minutes. Finally, Kira spoke. Captain, if this interpretation is accepted by my people, it would mean that our bond becomes something chosen rather than imposed. Would you accept such a partnership? Alex looked at the remarkable woman who had begun as his reluctant servant and had become something much more valuable, a true ally and friend. Kira, I can't think of anyone I'd rather have as a partner. You've taught me about honor, courage, and the importance of looking beyond our own assumptions. Kira smiled, and this time it was a full, genuine expression of joy rather than her usual careful half-smile. Then perhaps an accidental severing of hair has led to something neither of our peoples expected, a new way of understanding what it means to serve and be served. As the New Horizon continued its journey toward the colony world, now accompanied by a Valorian escort fleet, Alex reflected on how much had changed in just a few weeks. He had gained not just a protector, but a bridge between two civilizations, a teacher who had shown him new ways of thinking about leadership and responsibility. The accidental bond created by a desperate sword stroke had become something chosen by both parties, a partnership based on mutual respect rather than ancient obligation. And perhaps most importantly, it had demonstrated that even the most rigid traditions could evolve when faced with new possibilities. Kira continued to serve as Alex's guardian, but now she did so by choice rather than compulsion. She also served as an ambassador between their peoples, helping to negotiate the first formal alliance between humans and Valorians. The bond that had begun with the severing of a hair braid had become something that neither species could have imagined, a new model for how different peoples could work together. As Alex watched Kira coordinating with both human and Valorian crews, teaching combat techniques to volunteer militia members, and learning human engineering principles in return, he realized that sometimes the most important discoveries happen by accident. A desperate act in combat had led to understanding, cooperation, and the beginning of something that might change the galaxy. The New Horizon sailed on toward its destination, no longer just a human colony ship, but the flagship of an unprecedented alliance. And at its heart was a partnership forged in battle, tempered by respect, and strengthened by the recognition that true honor lay not in blind obedience to tradition, but in the courage to build something better together.